Everybody's favorite vice president returned today. Former Vice President Mike Pence on Tuesday, that's actually not today, that was yesterday, called for common sense reforms to federal entitlement programs, namely Social Security and Medicare, weighing in on what is set to be a wedge issue in the 2024 presidential campaign. If we act in this moment with the support of this generation, we can introduce common sense reforms that will never touch anyone who is in retirement or anyone who will retire in the next 25 years, Pence told an audience of college students at Washington and Lee University in Virginia. It'll just take courage to do it, and that's where your generation will come in. The debate over entitlement reforms reignited in the face of the looming debt ceiling fight in Washington, where Republicans wanted commitment on spending cuts from the White House before agreeing to raise the debt ceiling. Republican leadership has not detailed what they would be willing to cut, but Democrats have set off warning signals that Republican lawmakers want to make cuts to entitlement programs. Cutting such programs is a non-starter for most Democrats, and the debate has split potential presidential hopefuls on the Republican side. Former President Trump has forcefully come out against the idea of cuts to Medicare and Social Security, saying on the campaign trail that he would not be touching the programs. Pence, who has yet to announce whether he is running for the White House in 2024, on Tuesday took a veiled jab at Trump without mentioning the former president's name, saying Trump and others' unwillingness to consider reforms to entitlement programs should be something that infuriates young voters. President Biden won't even discuss common sense reforms of Social Security and Medicare, and too many leaders in my political party take the same position, Pence said. If that frustrates you, good. It should, because it'll be your generation that's robbed of your dreams and opportunities. Pence did not specify exactly what common sense reform he was endorsing. Of course not. The White House responded to Pence's comments, saying Republicans are flat wrong about cuts to entitlement programs. Mike Pence and congressional Republicans are flat wrong about cutting Medicare and banning abortion, White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bass said in a statement to Politico. So, this was actually something that reminds me of what happened with Haley a couple of, was that a week ago? Recently, where she was talking about wanting to mess with the retirement age or alter the retirement age for entitlement programs, as they like to call them. But she wouldn't say what age. She wouldn't say, are you going to lower it? Or where are you raising it to? Is it going to be, 75, 80, nothing? And that was really weird, because you would think if you're running for president and you want people to support you, clarity on what your actual position is something you would go with. But then you have to remember that Republicans, even if they have positions that are unpopular, they're self-aware. So they know when they go out and say, vote for me and I'll cut Social Security and Medicare, pretty much no one, including members of their own party, the actual voter base, would back that. And I said before that the sad thing about people not following this stuff as much as I or even some others do is that a lot of times, because they're not aware, they can be hoodwinked or tricked into thinking that people who are pro Social Security are, the same group that was against it before. So we mentioned that Trump, as president, proposed cutting Social Security and Medicare in his spending bills, and somehow he gets to go around now claiming that he's against doing it altogether, and almost no one calls him out on this, including the people, mind you, who are apparently going to be challenging him for the Republican nomination. But my favorite part of this is where Pence says that Biden won't even discuss common sense reforms of Social Security and Medicare, and too many leaders in my political party take the same position. Well, what discussion is there to be had? You either cut it or you don't. And like common sense is that most people don't want you to mess with it. And you know that most people don't want it to be messed with. You want their votes, which is why you won't say or explicitly define what your position is. I love how they always try to make it sound like they have these solutions, right? But there's a true vagueness that I'm noticing more and more with these Republicans. Like, we were talking about DeSantis will often call things woke. Pretty much anything that's against his ideology is woke. Raise minimum wage is woke. Wanting children to learn about all of American history is woke. Just insanity. But you look at, again, when they're called to task on, okay, what is your, if you don't support what the White House is doing, where they're just ruling out cutting Social Security and Medicare, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to cut it a little bit? Are you going to cut it a lot? Is there a specific number? Nothing. And again, it's like, what's so sad to me is I keep reminding myself that Pence is someone who not only wants to be president, but for 4 years was a heartbeat away from being president. And it's like that's an extremely powerful leadership position, and he exhibits almost no leadership qualities. Because if I'm a politician who calls themselves wanting to be fiscally conservative and cutting social programs I think are plunging us more and more into debt, even though, like I said, these same people are completely fine with military budgets that balloon into the hundreds of billions every single year, I would say, hey, look, I get that people like this program, but right now it's unsustainable. We have to cut it, and whatever people wouldn't vote for me, I would go, okay, here we go, fine. I'm going to tell you the truth. But see, that's what actual leadership is. It's taking an assertive position on something that is not popular, and then either trying to move people to your position, right, make the argument for why you believe what you believe, or just accepting, like, hey, you guys are not going to support me, that's fine, but I'm not changing my view because I think this is what's right. Just like I know that the majority of people in various polls have been found to be pro death penalty. I'm against it because I'm someone who thinks that state sanctioned murder is not something I support. You've also had people who were wrongfully convicted, put to death for crimes they didn't commit, a variety of reasons. So as someone who can readily admit most people are to the opposite of my position on this issue, I'm not going to say, well, sometimes depending on what the case is, speaking this like vague talk, I'll say, no, I'm against this. Here are my reasons. You can agree or disagree, whatever, and then let the chips fall where they may. So, it's just like when Sanders ran for president, he was talking about, if we pass single payer, you're going to pay more taxes, but you're still going to save money in the long run because no premium, deductibles, copays. It's like politics 101 and leadership 101 is taking a position, defining it, and then letting people see where they're going to come to, if they're going to support you, if they're going to oppose you. I would have so much more respect for Pence if he came out and said, I am a raging fiscal conservative. I want to cut every single nickel, dime, and penny out of Medicare and Social Security, and that's what I believe. And if you don't like it, oh well. I would go, yep, I'm not voting for you, but I respect that you're honest about what you are. That's why I said these people, they want to be your leader, but they show at every instance that they don't have what it takes to be leaders. They're just people who got elected and are, I guess, kind of mad that they can't get all the way to the top. So they're letting it become more and more apparent just how little they have to offer in terms of both honesty and actually proposing something that is clearly defined.